What up, though, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the GOAT Debate Podcast. It is episode number 21. Episode 21 of the GOAT Debate. So glad that you guys are joining us. Those that are listening live, we are live right now on Facebook. Those that are listening later on your podcasting platforms, we certainly appreciate you guys taking out the time to listen to the show. Meech and Darius here with you as always, and we have another exciting episode on tap tonight. What's up, Darius?
Oh, man. I'm excited. We've got a great one, a difficult one, I would say, to come up with a top 5 list. So it'll be interesting to see what the composite is, what the tribe thought of these topics and where they were placed and ranked. Because, you know, depending on what your criteria is, you know, you can see a lot of these move up and down within the top 5, I think, to some degree. So that should be interesting.
Yeah, definitely. I think the topic tonight is one where you could argue that there really, I don't know if there's really a consensus top 5. I think if you asked several different people to name their favorites, to name their tops, as Darius takes a sip of wine there. Name your favorite, name your top in this particular category. I think you might get a variety of answers from a variety of people. So tonight on episode number 21 of the GOAT Debate Podcast, we are going to talk about the best book to film adaptations of all time. So, of course, I'm pretty sure everybody knows what that means. Basically, the best movie that was originally a book. And so we're going to talk about that tonight. A very, very challenging topic. Darius and I gave our top 5s probably very late in the process. The tribe was, I think, very thoughtful in their voting, in the sense of it took them some time to actually think about it and submit some choices. So I think tonight is going to be one of our more interesting shows. So tonight, best book to film adaptation. And so as we do on each episode of the GOAT Debate Podcast, before we get into our top 5, we always like to talk about our honorable mentions. So for those of you that might be new to the GOAT Debate, I like to remind people how this works every few episodes. Tonight, we will do a top 5. That top 5 is comprised of a composite of my top 5, Darius's top 5, and the top 5 of our listeners that we poll. We call them the tribe. And so we take a composite top 5 and count that down. And before we do that, we always like to talk about some honorable mentions, a couple of high vote getters that didn't quite make the top 5. So we're going to talk about our first honorable mention tonight. Our first honorable mention is a adaptation from a book that was originally published in 1988. The book was written by Thomas Harris. The film was adapted in 1991 and is a cult classic, Darius. It is considered one of the best psychological thrillers, psychological horror films. I don't know if it's horror, but some people may classify it as such. But one of the best films in that genre, that kind of that psychological thriller genre, one of the best films of all time in that genre. And we're talking about The Silence of the Lambs. We're talking about Hannibal Lecter. Of course, in the film adaptation, Anthony Hopkins plays Hannibal Lecter. Jodie Foster plays Clarice, who Hannibal Lecter says her name in a very memorable way throughout the entire film. But Silence of the Lambs was a very good book, obviously, for I don't know. I guess most movies that are most books that are adapted to movies usually are pretty good books, or else they wouldn't think they were good enough to making the movies. But Silence of the Lambs, man, one of those. As far as the book goes, it won a Bram Stoker Award for Best Novel in 1988. It also won an Anthony Award for Best Novel in 1989, and of course, the film was critically acclaimed. What were your thoughts on The Silence of the Lambs?
It's one of my favorite films to watch late at night. I don't know what that says about me.
Late at night. Okay. All right.
But because it adds you're dark, and it's a dark film. But what I found interesting was the writer of the novel, Thomas Harris. He, an English major, lends itself to being a good writer, of course. But he was a reporter that followed up on crime. So he was a newspaper writer, and it just kind of, got to see all these real gruesome, horrible things. Because you kind of wonder, like, how does someone come to write about one, the FBI, and as we see Clarice, she's newly from the academy, and then gets on this big case with this pronounced killer, and how does someone get into that mindset? But apparently he was in it every single day with all this crime that he was covering for the newspaper. And the Red Dragon series, which is a part of Silence of the Lamb, that came out first. And before that, he wrote a book called Black Sunday, which was a novel about a hostage situation, coming from the Olympics. So he's deep into this crime and real weird, creepy, sort of crime, I would say. And that kind of you see it build and build and build to this movie series that became from this book that's just legendary now. It's now a part of history. So the series was good, but the movies to me were amazing, and that's a hard thing to do.
Yeah, and I would say now it's interesting in the chronological order of the books. Red Dragon came before The Silence of the Lambs, but in the film releases, Red Dragon came after Silence of the Lambs. But I think right. it was considered a prequel. I think that's the way it was presented. I did not like Red Dragon as much. I remember seeing that one in the movie theaters, but obviously Silence of the Lambs was just so iconic, and it was so good that it was, just really hard. A lot of times trying to come with that sequel or that prequel, it's just really, really hard to duplicate the success of the original. I mean, when you think about the film Silence of the Lambs, it was made on a $19 million budget. It grossed over $272 million at the box office. As far as awards, obviously it won 5 Academy Awards: Best Picture, Best Director. Anthony Hopkins won Best Actor. Jodie Foster won Best Actress. And it won, surprise, surprise, Best Adapted Screenplay. So in addition to Best Sound as well. So it was, I would probably venture to say that the film probably had more success than the actual the book. But nonetheless, Silence of the Lambs is definitely one of the best book to film adaptations that I think we've seen. In terms of what the book in comparison to the movie, the book and the film kind of stayed the adaptation was very close to the novel. So in many aspects, and most people consider Jodie Foster and Anthony Hopkins exceeding expectations in their portrayals of Hannibal Lecter and Clarice. So Silence of the Lambs, our first honorable mention tonight as we count down the best book to film adaptations of all time. Now, our second honorable mention, I think this particular series of movies, they are I don't know if they're on break right now, but they're still making these films. Now, this one, Silence of the Lambs, is a great one. Obviously, one of my favorites. I think that I've probably seen most of the films in this series. As we talk about our second honorable mention here, the first film actually, I think, came out in 1993. If I'm not, well, maybe 1990. I said 1993, but maybe it was 93.
It was 93. Yeah.
Okay, yep. So 1993, we got the original. We've had several sequels since. Steven Spielberg spearheaded the movie and created a phenomenon with the original. I think the sequels, depending on which one, they were okay. But we're talking about Jurassic Park as our second honorable mention tonight for best book to film adaptations. What were your thoughts on Jurassic Park? Obviously, it's a fun. The movies are fun. I mean, the movies, I say fun, but in terms of, obviously there's some parts that actually scare you a little bit with the dinosaurs. But they're generally kind of, fun movies as they take you on this wild ride, if you will. Dinosaurs gone wild. But Jurassic Park, our second honorable mention tonight. Just a brief synopsis, Darius, before I jump to you on your thoughts. The book obviously came out in 1990. The first film came out in 1993. So, Darius, go ahead and jump in. Give us your thoughts on Jurassic Park.
Well, I mean, this is definitely got to be a snub. It's got to be a snub. I think it did like 5 million copies sold before it even became a movie. And if you put that in perspective, like 200 to 500 million copies is what something does, and it's the top tier books, and it did 5 before it became a movie. And of course, once the movie comes out, then they launched on that. But the book was really good. I remember having read it in middle school. Some other kid had it, and I wasn't particularly into dinosaurs or anything like that, but for some reason, I think it was on the summer reading list or something like that. And I saw it, but didn't read it. And then someone gave it to me, and I got it. And it's like, this is probably the thickest book I had ever read to that point. It was huge. It was white. I remember it was white, awesome cover with the, that classic skull of a T-Rex on there. And I actually read it from cover to cover. It was amazing. And then, when I finally saw the movie, to me, it was like, at that time, it was so realistic, seeing that movie in theaters. So I thought it was amazing. And then went on to gross $1 billion. I mean, the money, you mentioned all the various, they've had a whole trilogy, and then now they've rebooted that with Chris Pratt as the lead. And they're just, I think that's, top 10 grossing movies of all time. So just the newer one. So if you take all that money that franchise has made, it's just one of the most dominating franchises ever. And we see it in theme parks. So it's, carried over from books to movies to Universal now. So it is just a beast. And as Shane says, just talking about it has Stokes scared. So it just did an amazing job. I mean, it was an amazing movie, amazing book.
I mean, man, listen, man. I'm not gonna lie. Back in the day, those raptors, them velociraptors.
Oh, the raptors.
That scene in that first one where the girl's like, I don't know where she is. She's like in a lab or something, and
right.
They open the door. I'm like, what in the world is going on? I mean, it was pretty wild. They were actually probably scarier than the T-Rex. But then I just thought it got, as the movies progressed, it became like, they tried to kind of make the Raptors kind of like the centerpiece of some of the movies, and then they started to be able to like communicate with each other and talk in ways. And I mean, it kind of got a little much, and then they started, they had to create like the super predator, something that was more vicious than the T-Rex, and you got the Indominus Rex and the all these different super predator versions of the T-Rex, and so Shane properly corrected me and said it was a kitchen that the girl was hiding in, and the raptor came in. So but yeah, I haven't seen I did see the first Chris Pratt reboot, which was that Jurassic World, and I did like that. It wasn't bad. And I guess I have not seen the sequel to that, so I need to see that in order to be completely caught up on the Jurassic Park series. But all of the previous ones with like Jeff Goldblum and all those actors and actresses that were in those versions, I've seen that. Of course, we should acknowledge the author of the novel, Michael Crichton. I think I'm saying his name correctly. I could be butchering that, but he is, of course, the author of the Jurassic Park book. A 448-page book, as Darius pointed out, one of the thickest books that he's ever read. Critically acclaimed, obviously. And as Darius said, over $1 billion grossed with the movie adaptation and several sequels. Maybe too many, Darius. Maybe too many. But Jurassic Park, nonetheless, definitely could be considered a snub based on the box office success. Definitely one of the best book to film adaptations of all time. So those are our two honorable mentions: Jurassic Park and The Silence of the Lambs. Now let's get into the top five, starting with number 5. Now listen, this book has not only been adapted to a movie, it's also been adapted to a play. I know because I've seen the play. I saw the play adaptation, which is very good. It was a while back. It was a 30th birthday trip for the missus, and took her to see the play adaptation, and it was very good. This adaptation is of a 1982 novel written by Alice Walker. The book, before it even became a film, was a Pulitzer Prize winner in 1983 in the fiction category. It won a National Book Award in the fiction category as well. Again, I mentioned it being adapted to a movie, also being adapted to a play. And we're talking about The Color Purple. The Color Purple, of course, the film came out in 1985, 3 years after the book was released. And it had a who's who of actors and actresses in the movie, from Danny Glover to Whoopi Goldberg to Oprah Winfrey. It was an excellent movie. $15 million budget, grossed $142 million at the box office. Surprisingly, it received a litany of Oscar nominations. In fact, it received 10 Oscar nominations, and they didn't win one. 10 Oscar nominations for The Color Purple, and it did not win in any category, which is very, very surprising because it was an excellent movie. Darius, what are your thoughts on The Color Purple coming in at number 5 on our list tonight?
Is it really that surprising that a black film didn't win any Oscars?
Of course, back then definitely. Touche.
Today it would have got at least one. They The Help, they like that type of movie. But I digress. When I was looking into this, some of those stars, you mentioned all the stars, a lot of them were young and unknown at that time.
Right.
Whoopi Goldberg was an experienced thespian on the stage.
Right. And
she had written to Alice Walker, the author of the book, and said, I don't know if this will ever become a movie, but if it is, I'll play the dirt on the floor, she said. and little, not too long after that, she received a letter back saying, I know exactly who you are. I've seen your stuff and I've sent your information in. Uh-huh. And apparently that's how she got in. And Oprah Winfrey, she read the book and was, so hooked, and she really wanted to get into it. But apparently Quincy Jones, who was dealing with some lawsuit issues for Michael, was in Chicago, saw her on the television, and said that she needs to get into this movie. And she said she didn't need a speaking role, that she was willing to carry the script or help people with water, is what she said. Like, so you hear this vibe, these who are now legends in the business, willing to do anything and everything to be a part of this because they had read the script, or read the book rather. And Oprah didn't think she was going to get in, and she thought she was too big and this and that, and was, put her in a fat boot camp, after all the auditions. And apparently she says that Steven Spielberg heard about it and called her and said, hey, don't you lose 1 pound or you'll lose this role. And she immediately went and got some Dairy Queen and filled up after that.
Wow. That is quite the backstory.
It's crazy. It's crazy. All these people doing so much to be a part of this is the point. And Shane says he has never seen the movie. I have a confession. I have never seen it either.
What? How? Are you kidding me? You've never seen The Color Purple? Are you serious?
Well, listen. There's a reason why. For me, we all know I don't watch period pieces, right?
Oh God!
This came out.
It's fictional though. It's not like based on. It came out when I was 3, Stokes.
It was a PG-13 movie. Okay. I wasn't watching it anytime soon, so I know a lot of.
It's been on TV like 100 times since.
But now I'm not gonna go. It's like I said, I'm not gonna go back and watch it. As great as it was the number 1 rated PG-13 movie of that year, number 4 overall. I mean, it's a great movie. I've heard
How would you know? You haven't seen it.
Because I've heard all my life.
But it is a good movie. I'll give you a hard time. It's a great movie. Yes, I saw the.
We're on the same path. This is not our cup of tea. I especially like slave movies and old movies like that in that same genre. I know what. Give me something more inspiring.
So I saw the play adaptation of the movie and the book, which Oprah was heavily involved in. Ironically, I saw it in Chicago, which of course Oprah filmed her TV show there for many years, and so the play was great. The I guess the star of the play, obviously, like Celie is kind of the central character in the movie, the book, the play, but the actual named, recognized actress or person in the play was Michelle Williams from Destiny's Child. She actually played Suge Avery in the play adaptation of the book and the movie. So saw that. Like I said, it was very good. Saw it in Chicago. It was great. But yeah, the movie is excellent. Danny Glover. I didn't think a black man could be hated in a movie more than Danny Glover until Samuel L. Jackson's character in Django. Like he overtook Mister, because Danny Glover's character, they called him Mister in The Color Purple, and I think Samuel L. Jackson's character in Django probably has the number one spot for like the most hated brother in cinema history. But it was probably Mister before that. He was such a vile character, man. I mean, he was a pretty bad dude in that movie. So, Color Purple is a great movie, man. Definitely worth seeing for those of you that have not seen it already. I mean, it's...
Hey, make it worse. I think I have the DVD. I think my wife has the DVD. So
man, come on, man. You're not scoring points here tonight. But yeah, man, The Color Purple, amazing movie, amazing book. It's one of those, and I was wrong. I said it got 10 Oscar nominations. It actually got 11 and did not win one. It got 4 Golden Globe nominations, did not win one. And so probably in addition to, I shouldn't say in addition to, because it made the top 5, so it's not a snub, but definitely got snubbed during the award season, back there in the mid 80s. So The Color Purple coming in at number 5 on our list of the best book to film adaptations of all time. Coming in at number 4 is one that I've never seen. This one personally comes out of left field for me. I'm sorry. I did not see the movie. I did not read the book. I don't know a whole lot about it, so I'm going to give the floor to you, Darius Brown. You tell me why this book is so great, why the movie was even greater. Coming in at number 4. Now, what was surprising about this, I will say this, was that The Tribe was on it. Like, this movie got, if I'm not mistaken, it was tied for the top vote getter by The Tribe for the best book to film adaptation.
Wow.
It was tied for first. I can't believe it. But it comes in at number 4 on our list tonight because I didn't rank it. It didn't make my list. It made your personal list. But coming in at number 4 is The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. Darius Brown, I know nothing about this. The floor is yours.
Man, I know that The Color Purple is a mainstay in the Black household. So, right? So that's one that, if you're Black, you're supposed to have seen, right?
Well, we got 2 brothers, one in the chat, one on the show.
I don't know why I just brought that.
Black card revoked. Black card.
I don't know why I brought that back on me.
Yeah.
I should have let that alone, but this is a movie that garners watching, okay? Because
wait a minute. Is that a slight on the color? Garners watching? Are you implying, Darius Brown, that The Color Purple does not garner watching? The acting in that movie is A1. A1.
I'm not disagreeing. I'm not even going there. I'm not even going there. There's a show on the internet, Black Blasphemy, where they discuss things that Black people should like because they are Black, no other reason. And I think the color purple would fall in that category, but I'm gonna leave that for a different discussion.
Okay.
I'm just saying that to say, I think the girl with the dragon tattoo, just to get your mind going, is one that you should watch, but it is a dark series. It's a part of the Millennium series, which is the name of the magazine that one of the main characters write for. So since you haven't seen it, basically, this is a Swedish product. So for me, I don't really do foreign films. I know this isn't necessarily a foreign film. The book is foreign, but the girl with the dragon tattoo was originally called Men Who Hate Women in Sweden. But it's about it's so great because it is two stories that merge into one. One, there's this journalist who is ousted from his job, and he feels slighted about it, but he is hired to solve a problem. This guy's niece went missing like 40 years ago, and he really wants that solved. And in return, he will basically give him information on the people who made him lose his job. So this tale follows him trying to discover what happened to this missing person, what happened to this girl. And along the way, he hires this girl with the dragon tattoo, and she's bisexual, and she kind of like a Britney Spears situation where her money is held by somebody else. She has to go report to this person, and he gives her money when he sees fit, and he ends up rapes her. And then she turns on him. It's very dark. It's a very dark, but she's very smart and savvy. And she goes on to help him find this missing girl and what happened. And when, things are unveiled right underneath your nose. And it's just a great mystery. And it's dark. It's different, like I said. So if you're a fan of Silence of the Lambs that we spoke about, it's a little bit. The twists are a little bit darker than that, but it's kind of in the same vein, I would say. So it's just a great story that I think is worth checking out. So I think you should give it a try. It's also been readily available. Don't be scared.
I'll watch it if you watch The Color Purple.
Oh, that's okay.
Fair is fair. You watch The Color Purple. Okay. I'll watch the girl with the dragon tattoo. I think I remember my wife really wanting to see this or have seen it. I know I didn't see it, so if she saw it without me. But listen. Movie stats speak for themselves. $90 million. Wow, a $90 million budget. Okay, $232 million at the box office. That's not bad. 5 Oscar nominations, including 1 win for Best Film Editing. I think Rooney Mara got nominated for Best Actress. It was also nominated for Best Cinematography, Best Sound Editing, and Best Sound Mixing. And then didn't win in any of those categories, but did win for Best Film Editing. So critically acclaimed, won a ton of other awards from, broadcast film critics, Chicago film critics. So you got a very critically acclaimed film. It won a Grammy, Best Score Soundtrack for Visual Media. So, it won a Grammy as well. So
it's very artsy. It's very artsy in a way, but because the way it weaves in those two storylines of the girl, messing with her money and then finding the other guy trying to find this, very artsy.
Okay. All right. Well, the girl, look at that. The girl with the dragon Tattoo.
And it stars James Bond. For those who are like, oh, it stars
Daniel
James
Craig.
Bond.
Yes, I'm like, wait a minute, James Bond is in it too. I really gotta watch this. What do they do? Like a what do they call it with two different characters come together? Was it like a Marvel movie?
Multiverse? Is it?
Would that be a multiverse? Like a multiverse? Yeah, kind of like they did with like Mr. Glass and and the dude with the multiple personality Split, whatever his name was, kind of. Mm-hmm. So I was about to say, man, Bond is in this movie, but you mean the guy who plays James Bond? Yeah, Daniel Craig stars in the movie, and then of course, I think it's what is it, Runa? Is it Rooney Mara?
Sure.
Is that her name? Let's go with that. Yeah, Rooney Mara. Yeah, she plays Lisbeth. Who and again she received an Oscar nomination for her role in the movie as well. So The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, I think that's a movie I guess I need to add to my watch list. Okay, so coming in at number 4. Now on to number 3. I think this is one that here's I think this is one, of course, everyone is going to be familiar with. I haven't seen any of these movies, not one, because I've never been interested in them. However, I know they are very, the series of films have done amazing in the box office. It is a favorite of the tribe because these series of films, so there's more than one, tied with The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo for the most votes by the tribe. Darius, this movie came in at number 3 on your personal list, number 1 on the tribe's list, tied for number 1. I did not rank it on my list. However, it garnered enough composite points to come in at number 3. Interestingly enough, man, these movies are adapted from a book that was written decades before the movies ever came out. These books came out in the mid-50s. So we're talking about The Lord of the Rings coming in at number 3 on our list of best book to film adaptations. Lord of the Rings, the original book came out in 1954. We didn't get the first Lord of the Rings movie until 2001. Now, what's so interesting, I want to talk about the book first. What's so interesting about the book is that it stood the test of time, man. It has been one of the most popular books decade after decade after decade, years after its original release. I mean, when you look at some of the critical accolades that it has, in 2015, BBC ranked The Lord of the Rings 26th on its list of 100 greatest British novels. It's considered one of the 100 best books of the century. I mean, it is very, very beloved by people all over the world. And of course, when the movies come out, the movies just knock it out of the park in terms of, box office sales. The 3 movies combined were made on a $281 million budget. The movies combined grossed almost $3 billion, $2.9 billion. And so, Lord of the Rings, again, I haven't seen any of them, but I know enough about the popularity of the books to know that the movies were very popular. They did very well. As you guys said earlier with the color purple, not personally my cup of tea, but I definitely can understand why The Lord of the Rings is on this list.
Yeah, and it wasn't necessarily my favorites, but out of respect, it definitely had to make the list. But it also had one of the most amazing fight scenes, as they're trying to invade this tower, and you just see, warriors and warriors from as far as your eye can see, and it was just an epic battle scene. But I also remember them felt like they were super long too. So trying to stuff all that in. But you mentioned how great it was. It in this test of time. I mean, think about it. What other book has a biggest gap from when it was made? Passion of the Christ might be the biggest one, the biggest gap. But other than that, everything.
Some 2,000 years later,
it took you a second.
Christ, 2,000 years after the death and the resurrection of Christ, the Passion of the Christ is made.
So it's the Bible and Lord of the Rings are are the two longest. But yeah, Shane's not feeling this one either. He says blah. I mean, it's you gotta be in that Dungeons of Dragons realm of personality, I guess, to really fall in love with these movies. They're long. It's elves and dwarfs and things of that nature. So hobbits, of course. The books itself were a tough read, and not a tough read, but you have to really get into it, and the movies reflect that. So but there's no denying over 500 million books sold collectively, something like that. So it's just a beast of a movie and a film franchise.
Yeah, absolutely. Very, definitely, like I said, definitely deserving of being on the list. I know in
150 million.
150 million. Okay. And in recent memory, man, when you think about book to film adaptations, this is one that, in the last decade or so, this is one of those dominant franchises. I think we got 3 movies. I think the book was actually one book, and then they ultimately split it up into, secondary or, future publications. They ended up releasing them in separate parts. And so that's where we get the series of, I think we got 3 Lord of the Rings movies. So, so Lord of the Rings comes in at number 3 on our list, and coming in at number 2, Darius, is one that this was the top dog on my list. This was number 1. Yes, this was number 1 on my list. It was number 4 on your personal list. And I'm pretty sure it was top 5 for the tribe. But listen, when we talk about, gangster films, gangster flicks, first of all, I knew it before we did this show, but for the longest time, I didn't even know this movie was a book at first. I didn't know it was a book, adaptation from a book. But you talk about Mario Puzo, who wrote this book back in 1969. It stayed on the New York Times bestseller list for 67 weeks. It sold over 9 million copies in 2 years. And the original film, which was released in 1972, is one of the, when you talk about, like I said, gangster films, it's one of the most beloved, one of the most memorable gangster films of all time. And we're talking about The Godfather, coming in at number 2 on our best book to film adaptations of all time. Now, The Godfather, obviously, there were 3 films, the original in 72, then we got part 2 in 74, and then part 3 in 1990, which was a big gap. I probably remember the first 2. The first one was probably the one that obviously I think is the most popular, no doubt, of the 3. But when you talk about book to film adaptations, this one, again, so very popular. The movies combined were made on around a $74 million budget. They grossed over $500 million. When you think about the time these movies were made, that's big time box office money. Of course, Francis Ford Coppola, of course, is the director and producer of the films. Of course, it follows the Corleone family, and it's a classic movie, man. It's a classic movie, and the book was solid as well.
Yeah, it's an interesting choice because it's one that is often regarded as some of the best films, not just in the gangsta genre, but of all time. Ebert puts it number 12 on his top Roger Ebert's greatest movie, so number 12 overall. So that's nothing to shake a stick, as old folks say at. And they say the book sold between 20 and 30 million copies, which is huge. We talk about 150 for Lord of the Rings, that's been out since the 50s, and had that mass movie appeal. But unlike Lord of the Rings, I remember going to Books A Million, if folks know what that is. When those movies, the Lord of the Rings, came out, that book popped back up and was selling like hotcakes. I don't know that anybody went back after any of the 3 releases of The Godfather and went back and read it like that. I didn't in 1990. I didn't walk into Barnes and Nobles and see that. So that is kind of interesting to me. And I didn't know, like yourself, that it was even a book, but so those are the differences between some of these books that are at the top and selling versus, something that's just kind of, and you got to think of all the stars that took over in that movie and people who were fighting for those roles, legends of the game are in that movie. It's just a classic piece of cinema, I'd say.
No doubt. The Godfather. What more can you say? I mean, we could talk about the actors who from Al Pacino to to Diane Keaton, to boy, I mean, it's a who's who. Adrian was in that movie. Adrian from the Rocky films. She had a role in The Godfather. And so, when you think about her, I don't recall her being in many movies other than the Rocky films, but for her to be in like 2 of the biggest, series of films ever created with The Godfather and Rocky. I mean, hey, she had a good good casting eye for what movie she wanted to play in. So, yeah, man, The Godfather coming in at number 2 here on our list of best book to film adaptations. And you got something to add?
Yeah, just to put the rubber stamp on it, it's Godfather 2 was the first film in history to win an Oscar for Best Picture, because usually the sequels are not that good,
Right,
but in this case, some people think 2 is better than 1.
Better than 1. Yeah. And I said 1 is the most memorable, but 2 is, you're right. 2 is definitely highly regarded. And I know if in the future, we've talked about maybe a best sequels, episode for the GOAT debate. And I'm sure if and when that episode happens, The Godfather 2 will definitely be in top 5 consideration, no doubt. So The Godfather, great book, great movies. And, I don't remember part 3 as much, but, still great films and a great book to match. So we're almost at number 1, almost at the GOAT, or at least in our opinion, or the composite rankings opinion, what the GOAT is for best book to film adaptation. But we always like to talk about our snubs before we go into our number 1. And so, Darius, I'm gonna give you the floor first. I know do you even have a snub tonight? Because I think
oh, okay, all right.
I was gonna say, I was
wondering.
I think your top 5, they all were either in the top 5 or an honorable mention. So you may not have a snub tonight unless you want to make one up on the spot right now.
I of course don't have a snub because, as you just mentioned, everything that I said came to pass, and
here we
go. It's there, but one I don't know if it would be a snub since it didn't make my top 5, and I am correct.
Mm-hmm.
But another good book to film adaptation, Forrest Gump. Forrest Gump is a great movie.
Yep.
And a solid book as well. So just throw that one out there. But yeah, I don't have too many snubs. Were there any snubs? I'm curious to see. Was there any snubs from the tribe?
Yes, there were a couple. So Forrest Gump, I want to circle back to that or touch on that before we move on. For the longest time, Forrest Gump was like probably in my top 5 of favorite movies of all time. I just loved Forrest Gump for whatever reason. It's still one of my favorites. I don't know if it would be in my personal top 5. Right now, just if you say what are your top 5 favorite movies, I don't know if Forrest Gump would be on that list. But for a while, it was one of my favorites. I never read the book though, which is interesting because I just recently found out that it was adapted from a book. I didn't just like The Godfather. I didn't know that originally, but yeah, Forrest Gump is definitely one of my favorites. Now, my understanding from what I read, because as I was compiling my top 5, I was doing my research. I was reading up on things. I heard that the film adaptation is very different from the book. I heard there were a lot of changes, or I read that there were a lot of changes in the film versus the book. So including like the ending and things of that nature. So, which I mean, of course, a lot of films that adapt from books are changed in many ways. Some of them, a movie like, for example, The Color Purple stayed pretty true to form to the book, and then you got other films where they completely changed it up. And that was one of the things, I guess, one of the critiques, if you will, for Forrest Gump, the film versus the book, although the film did excellent. I mean, it won Oscars, it was critically acclaimed. It won all sorts of awards. So I definitely think that is one that could be considered a snub. Looking at the tribe's list here, just looking at their choices. I'm like I said, they had the Girl with the Dragon Tattoo and Lord of the Rings were tied for first. The film that came in second is our number 1, so I won't bring that up until we get into number 1. But a movie that I heard more than one person talk about, and I could be mispronouncing this, is Train Spotting. Oh, is that how you say that? That was one that they got a few votes from the tribe that didn't quite make the composite top 5. There were some interesting ones, man. We got a vote for Captain Underpants. I don't know how serious. I don't know if that person was actually serious, but Captain Underpants got a vote. Yeah, I mean, it technically was a film that adapted from a series of books. So, you talked about the Bible earlier and Passion of the Christ. The 10 Commandments actually got a vote, and which is very interesting. That was more of a television adaptation. If you ever watched the 10 Commandments,
was that like? Did that come out like when like color was just being a thing?
Oh, shut up, man!
No, I'm being serious. Was it?
Oh,
like this is super old.
I mean, Charlton Heston as Moses, and
yeah,
I think that was 60s, maybe 70s, maybe. Maybe I just know that I've seen it a zillion times, and it's because it used to always come on, ABC. I want to say it was like around Easter, maybe. I think it was always around it wasn't Christmas, so it had to be Easter. It was always around, a Christian holiday. So I'm assuming that it was Easter. But I chuckled when I saw that the Ten Commandments got some votes. Some other ones. I gotta point out Tyler, because Tyler always listens to the show and shows us a lot of love. He said The Martian, which I've never seen the movie or read the book. So I know The Martian. Oh man, who was it? Was it Brad Pitt?
No. No, it's Boston guy. What is his name?
Mark Wahlberg.
No. Matt Damon.
Oh, Matt Damon. Oh, I thought you said Boston guy, but that's Wahlberg.
I did.
Wahlberg's from Boston too, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if Matt Damon's from Boston, but I think he went to Harvard, right?
I know he's a Massachusetts. I know him and
yeah, he's from Massachusetts.
Yeah. Matt Damon and what's his homeboy's name? The dude that played Batman, Ben Affleck. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, so a couple other ones real quick. The Shining, great. That's a really good one. That's a really good Stephen King. In fact, I'll say The Shining, and then I'll talk about my snub because it's also attached to Stephen King. But The Shining was a great book to film adaptation. The Shining is the movie, like Jack Nicholson. I mean, that's excellent, man. I don't know if The Shining was actually ever in theaters. I always saw it on TV. I know a lot of Stephen King's books were adapted into like TV miniseries. I don't know if he had like a deal with a network for that, but I think The Shining was like that. And I know my snub, which is It. Listen, the scariest movie of all. We do a horror film show. It's number one on my list. It is the scariest movie I've ever seen. Okay. I mean, you could find a combined.
How old were you when you saw it?
Oh, I don't know. I was young. And I'm talking about, okay. I hear the new one, the new one, because, what's interesting about it is it was originally a book. It was adapted for TV, and then they made it into a movie, too. So the television adaptation, I think, was done back in the 80s. Tim Curry played Pennywise. He was horrifying. He was super scary. And then you get the movie, which came out in 2017. The first one did, It Chapter 1, which is the highest grossing horror film of all time. I didn't even know that.
Wow.
But it is. It's the fifth highest grossing horror film. R-rated film of all time. But if you take out, I think they said if you take out inflation, it is the highest grossing, adjusted for inflation, it's the highest grossing horror film of all time. But It, man, is definitely my snub. The book,
okay,
and the book and the movies, both TV and film, are pretty true to form, and definitely super scary, man. Just the whole clown thing, and an alien being inside of a clown. I mean, it was. If my daughter wants to watch some scary movies tomorrow, I was thinking about watching It. I don't even want to watch it, and I'm a grown man, and I'll probably still be scared. So, but It is definitely one of my snubs.
Okay.
Yep. So, The Hunger Games was one that was the tribe voted, got a few votes. I love those movies. Those are very good. Really surprised no vote for Twilight. I thought Twilight might get some love, but not a ton of votes for Twilight.
That had like a pocket where it was hugely popular, like crazy popular, and then after the movies, it just disappeared. So that was kind of weird. How obviously they grew up, and the fans of that grew up, but I remember I was working part time at Toys R Us, and it was just do you have? I don't even remember Jacob versus Edward or whoever the two main characters. Did you have this poster? Oh, I need the other one. Like, so they did an amazing marketing with that movie as well. But yeah, after that series left theaters, it just disappeared.
Yeah, definitely. And Shane has a theory on why it just disappeared. He says because it was trash. pretty harsh criticism.
Okay.
Man, but
tell us how you feel.
Yeah, man. I mean, I know my wife was into Twilight for a minute. I actually remember we stayed up. I want to say, man, 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. We started watching from the first film, maybe, I don't know, it was maybe 9, 10 o'clock at night, and we watched all of them like in one sitting. And I haven't revisited it. I haven't gone back. I haven't watched them again. So, but I, hey, you do it in the moment to to make, if mama ain't happy, nobody happy, right? Ain't that what they say? So so Twilight, yeah, I mean, it was all right, but not not my cup of tea, but it is what it is. So now the GOAT, number 1. This is my cup of tea. 8 films, I've seen all 8 of them. Darius.
Wow.
8 movies, I've seen them all. Here's the funny part. I've never read a book. I've never read one of the books. But I have read and hear that, of course, the film is adapted from the book very, very well. One of my favorite, when you talk about just series of movies, just one big story woven into multiple movies. One of my favorites, J.K. Rowling, masterpiece. Number 1 on our list tonight is none other than Harry Potter, coming in at number 1 for our best, the GOAT, the best book to film adaptation. Of course, the series of books were released. What's interesting about this is that books were released while the movies were coming out. So that's interesting. Mm-hmm. So you got the first Harry Potter book in 1997. The books were released between 1997 and 2007. We got the first movie in 2001, and the movies were coming out between 2001 and 2011. So there were still books being written as the movies were being released. The story is great, man. Just of Harry Potter, AKA the boy who lived, and just his story with his parents and what happened to them, and then his journey through school and the things he had to face and battle with his friends. It was just a great story. I never was one to be into like wizards and sorcery and any of those type of things, but I found the movies to be very enjoyable and very very appealing.
Yeah, I wonder how that worked for you, because I know a lot of people who grew up in the church, because it's wizards and stuff, weren't even allowed to read the books or see the movies. I
was grown by the time they came out, so I
forgot about that.
The first movie, I think the first movie came out, I think I was probably like 20. I was probably like 21, so I didn't have to get the green light to see him. And I mean, for me, man, in my mind, it's all, it was all fantasy. Like, I'm not, it wasn't like I was going out here, trying to, recreate or cast Harry Potter spells. We went to Universal Studios one time. I had to go to the Wizarding World of Harry Potter. Just had to do it, had to see it. And that was a cool experience, but no, man, I get it though. I think a lot of people, like you said, especially if they grew up in a religious background maybe stayed away from the movies like Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings because of the wizardry and sorcery and all those type of things. And I understand it, but I also kind of, from my perspective, understood, hey man, it's just it's a movie, it's fantasy. And for me, it was fun, man. I wasn't like I said, it didn't I didn't want to become a sorcerer after I saw it. I just just like the movies.
Well, that's all true. What also is true is how big of a beast this franchise is. Over 500 million books sold, which is the most of any series of all time. Not just the popularity, but definitely this actually does speak to the popularity, is the fact that how many times it was on the New York Times bestseller. She would release a book, it would get bestseller, then she would release the next book, that book would become number one, and the book she just released the year prior would still be on the list.
Right.
She got to the point where she had 3 bestsellers in the top 10 at the same time.
Yeah.
That is such a beast. At that time, it was pretty much rare for a children's book to be a top 10 bestseller. You would see it occasionally, and she repeatedly did it over and over, so much that they created a children's bestseller list just because she kept dominating it. It's just a ridiculous feat. And then all the movies that came out, and you talked about, you visited Universal, and just even the butterbeer that people who don't even really get into it.
Yeah, I tried that. Man, I didn't care for that. I tried it, but yeah, just to say,
but people had to go and they have to get their wands. Yeah. It's just the whole thing. So, and she ended up doing some other books as well, but her bread and butter was Harry Potter, and it's just the popularity. I didn't watch all the series. I read like the first 2 books, I think, and I think I may have seen the first 2 films on there, but very, very good stuff. Very intriguing.
Yeah, man. The movies are great. I would imagine the books are just as good. Listen, man, J.K. Rowling she's rolling in the dough, bro. Like, she's rolling in the dough between the movies and the books. Obviously, what she probably got paid to adapt her books, and then all the sales from her book, man, she's killing the game. I think I read somewhere that her net worth is floating somewhere between like 650 and $1 billion, somewhere around there. So she's not doing bad at all for writing children's books, man. I mean, but hey, you find your niche, and you go with it, and it blew up. So yeah, man, Harry Potter is, like I said, if we talk about just favorite like film series, for me, it's probably it's like Star Wars, Rocky, and then like Harry Potter is probably number 3. So definitely in the top 5. But yeah, Harry Potter comes in at number 1 tonight on our list of best book to film adaptations. Harry Potter is our GOAT for tonight. And just to recap, our top 5 best book to film adaptations. Number 5, The Color Purple. Number 4, The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. Number 3, The Lord of the Rings. Number 2, The Godfather. And number 1, Harry Potter. A lot of those in the on the top 5 tonight. 4 of the 5, but yeah. So that's our list tonight. And then Jurassic Park and The Silence of the Lambs were our honorable mentions. So we want to thank you guys so much for listening to this episode number 21 of the GOAT Debate Podcast. If you guys have not already, which I know you have, you guys are listening, you guys are checking us out on social media, I know you're doing it, but just in case you have not already, follow us on social media. You can find us on Instagram and Twitter at GOAT_debate. Search the GOAT Debate Podcast on Facebook. You'll find us there as well. You can, of course, DM us or message us future show ideas. Email is available, but I won't plug that because, it's 2020. We can DM now. So Darius reminded me of that a few weeks back. So, if you got any show ideas, anything you want to hear us debate, go ahead and send us a message on any of our social media platforms. We are usually very quick to reply and respond. And we appreciate the love and support. Of course, if you're listening on a podcasting platform, be sure to rate us, 5 stars preferably, and comment. There's always, if there's room for improvement, if there's things we can improve on, let us know. We're always working to get better. Darius is making that face because he's like, what are you talking about? We're already perfect. But if there's somewhere we need to improve, man, we will take it under consideration because we want to continue to grow the GOAT debate. Darius, anything you would like to add before we sign off tonight?
No, just make sure you and anybody else who haven't complete your homework assignment, do so. The girl with the dragon tattoo, make sure you put that on, not just on your DVR, but actually watch it and report back. Let me know in the comments or the DMs or the email what you thought of the movie.
Is that a homework assignment? Are you talking to me specifically, or are you speaking to everyone who's listening?
Listen, if it hits your heart, go ahead and follow it up.
If the shoe fits, wear it. And Darius and our good buddy Shane in the chat room's homework assignment is to watch The Color Purple, because you might be the only 2 brothers on earth who I know that have never seen the movie. But I'll leave it at that. Homework assignments for everyone tonight: The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, if you haven't seen it; The Color Purple, if you haven't seen it. If you're black and you haven't seen it, please report to your nearest NAACP office to have your black card revoked.
Listen, I'll dust off the VHS. I'll find the tape. We'll see if we can make it happen.
All right. Well, we thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of the GOAT Debate Podcast. Be sure to check us out next week for another exciting episode. If you want to check us out live, we broadcast every Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time live on Facebook. But if you can't catch us live, continue to listen and support on your podcasting platforms. We appreciate that as always. So we'll check you guys out next time. Hope you guys stay safe, stay healthy. Peace.